Peace, love, and light to each and every one of you. Wisdom loves you unconditional, but just not in the you know what. And you also know where. So let's get right into this. Now, as you know, there are a lot of things transpiring in the universe and in the world and outside of the universe and the world and particularly underneath. So things are getting hot and brewing up, and while they are getting hot and brewing up, there are a great demand for misleading, upsetting, depressing, toiling, and everything else that has to do with one taking their actually let me just break it down. It has to do with one being misled or manipulated to become misled, or getting sidetracked or manipulated to become sidetracked in the things, the chains of events that's going on now. Now, as you know, for the last quote unquote for the last year, we have been still waiting on this increase, the disability increase. We did get an increase, and everything went haywire because of the increase. There was a great demand for more spyware, and you know what I mean by more spyware, tracking devices, even on the monetary side of it, things and ways of tracking your every movement and everything that you spend your money on. And now there's a great big demand in controlling food stamps. And I remember way back when food stamps have came a mighty long ways, because there was a racial discriminating era when food stamps were first out there. They discriminated about the fact that you were spending food stamps and your limitations with the food stamps, even the your coupon from spending food stamps, your IOU coupon. You know, they would just write the amount down on a piece of paper as your balance, and then it would definitely say, I owe you this amount. And so the next time you go to the store, you show that little IOU, I guess looked upon as a receipt, and it would be subtracted from that. Then, you know, that was also in the same era that black women couldn't have black men staying with them if they were receiving any type of government officials spend down fundings. You know, the worker would surely come to the home and inspect the home and look for men clothing and this and that and the other, and that would determine whether or not if you would receive food stamps. Well, also, what I'm trying to get at, also during that era, when you were spending the food stamps, they pretty much dictated to you what you could buy with the food stamps, how much the items, what type of items you could get with food stamps, and whether or not, you know, you couldn't get, what was it, tobacco, I'm trying to think of things, I guess sheets, clothes, whatever, you know. I'm just calling those out, but that the main things was, I believe it was tobacco, wine, and cash, and other various well-known things you couldn't buy with food stamps. And you also couldn't stand in the line with food stamps and people not know that you were spending food stamps. You know, they changed a lot of that for a reason. And because many of the workers were getting jumped on coming to these women's houses, going all through their clothing and stuff. You know, Women's First, they was all for it, you know, wasn't saying anything, you know, like we always do when they come up with these things, when the government come up with these unbright ideas that they call bright ideas. We be usually for it because we're the ones that elected them in, but When is it going to stop? I keep saying that. When are we going to stop voting these people into the Congress, the White House, the House of Representatives, and so on and so forth, and having them dictate over us? Why do we need to be dictated? Why do we need somebody that's filthy rich, that's never been through what we go through on a daily crisis, to dictate for us what we need to be doing? Well, why is that? They don't know what we go through. They don't know what we need. They don't know how to resolve the issues in our communities because they don't live in our communities. They don't know nothing about our community. They've never been broke a day in their lives. But we keep putting them in there to dictate over us. And then once they get in there and get to doing too much of a dictation where it may be detrimentary or it may be unreasonably heard of or pose a threat to us or something like that, then we want to say something. But is it right to say something to the people that you keep voting up in the House? Why do you got to vote them up in there? That's the point that I'm trying to make. Why do we feel the need for someone to tell us what to do who is filthy rich, who's never been on our side of the tracks? Why is that? I think that we really need to take a look at ourselves, take a look at our economy, take a look at the chains of event that put us where we are. We're making improvements, but yet these improvements are for nothing, and we're backtracking and going back to dinosaur days, going back to the racisms and going back to the mishaps and trickery and abuse of power with the food stamps and everything else. How are we stepping 500 years backwards when we should be going forward? Where is your improvement for all of these things? And now is this going to hell and back? I don't understand it. I really do not. How can you then, where you stand now, make a difference in the world today when you done took a huge step backwards? I said I come to hopefully shed light on the world and move the people in a new direction. I did not say I come to move backwards in the world, in a new direction forward. What will work for this society today? Our world is so full of all of and then these Decepticons with these robots and calling people on the phone and can't talk to anyone because everybody's playing their game at home. They don't want to even pick up the phone and they're working from home. So they put that little automated voice on there that can't tell you anything, can't resolve anything. And you got to listen to that for the first 20 or 30 minutes. And if you keep punching it, it's just going to say the same thing unless you just hang up. So where do you resolve anything at? And what is it with this travel within the countries of the United States? Because, you know, we do live in countries within the 51 states of the United States, or there are countries within those 51 states that we also use as monetary gain and laws, real laws and God's laws, and invoking the amendments through those laws, and it works just fine as long as you're living out of the capacity of common law and God's law. But the moment you move, or shall I say they, because they're always trying to move you within that 6 miles radius, making you a U.S. citizen, and U.S. is not even a citizen status. You cannot be a U.S. citizen. It's only 6 miles, and it's only corporate script. So there's so much things that's going on. You guys need to start really showing these spirits, proving what you're seeing, or show thyself approved or something. Pray before you lose grips on a very small amount of faith. And it's so little. The mustard seed is bigger than the faith that you guys are holding. Come on. When is enough is enough? I keep saying, I'm not going to talk about it, but how could you not talk about it when all you see is such depressing things that does not have to be? You can improve things, you can cure things, you can do this and that and the other. so long as it involves a price. But you can't save yourself as a nation of people, as a country, countries, because you're so naive and that selfish and that greedy. Come on. And I'm going to leave it there.